I want you to imagine something. Picture a revolutionary, a man who's been a fugitive for 20 years. He's hiding out in a little hut right in the middle of enemy-occupied territory. And every single day, under the constant threat of being discovered, he's secretly writing a book he believes holds the key to his entire nation's future. Well, that man was real. His name was Tan Malaka, and this is the story of his secret philosophy.
The book is called Madilog, and get this, Tan Malaka wrote the whole thing between July 1942 and March 1943. He'd spend about 3 hours a day just pouring his life's work onto paper, all while the Japanese secret police, the Kempe Tai, were hunting for people just like him right outside his door.
And you can't overstate how real that danger was. His tiny hut was raided by the police not once, but twice. The only reason the manuscript survived is because, as he put it, his handwriting was so small and he'd hidden it so well that the police just missed it. It was basically an intellectual time bomb just sitting there, hidden in plain sight.
So to really understand this book, you first have to understand the man and the absolutely incredible circumstances he was writing under.
You know, this wasn't just some brief period of hiding out. By the time he started writing Madilog, Tan Malaka had already been on the run for 20 years, 2 decades. He'd been living all across Asia, using fake names, always looking over his shoulder. And when he finally snuck back into Indonesia in 1942, he was dodging the new Japanese occupiers. After he finished the book, he just went right back on the run, even working in a coal mine just to blend in. This book was literally forged in the fire of a life lived in the shadows.
So what was this big idea? What was so urgent that he would risk his life to write it all down? Well, Tan Malaka believed that the biggest thing holding back Indonesian independence wasn't just a foreign army. It was a whole way of thinking. An enemy inside the mind that he called logika mystica, or mystical logic.
This quote from the book, where he's analyzing ancient myths, kind of sums it up perfectly. Mystical logic is a worldview where everything is created by supernatural forces. By magic words from the gods, by spirits. It's a way of thinking that's based entirely on faith and things you can't see, where the real physical world is just something a spirit commanded into existence.
And right here you can see the fundamental clash. On one side, you've got mystical logic, where a spirit just creates matter out of nothing. On the other side, you have what he called ilmu pasti, which basically means science. In this view, matter has its own energy. The world evolves over millions of years, and everything, absolutely everything, is governed by evidence and unbreakable laws. For Tan Malaka, this wasn't just some dusty old debate. It was the central battle for the modern Indonesian mind. He argued that the universe doesn't just run on whims or magic. It follows consistent, predictable rules. And his proof was science itself. He pointed to things like the law of evolution, the conservation of energy and mass. These are the fundamental rules of reality. And in a world governed by these kinds of laws, there's just no room for a world created by a magic word. Okay, so if mystical logic was the enemy holding his people back, he was going to need a weapon to fight it. And that weapon was a brand new philosophy, a whole new way of thinking that he called Madilog.
The name itself is the entire formula. It's a word he actually invented, a portmanteau, by smashing together the 3 core ideas of his philosophy: materialism, dialectics, and logic. So Madilog isn't just the title of a book, it's a complete system for making sense of the world.
And here's how it all fits together. First, you start with materialism. That's the foundation. It says the only thing that's truly real is the physical, material world we can actually see and study. Then you've got dialectics. That's the engine. It's the idea that change in history happened through the clash of opposing forces. Think workers versus owners, old ideas versus new ones. And finally, you have logic. That's your toolkit. It gives you the rational rules you need to analyze that material world and understand how it's changing.
So here's the most important takeaway. Madilog is a deeply practical philosophy. It's not about sitting around and thinking abstract thoughts. It starts with the real world, materialism, and then it gives you the intellectual tools, logic and dialectics, not just to understand that world, but to actively go out and change it.
Which brings us to the ultimate point of this whole secret project. This was never just philosophy for its own sake. This was philosophy designed for a revolution.
And you have to ask yourself, right? Why would a guy on the run, in the middle of a world war, risk absolutely everything to write a dense book of philosophy? I mean, why not just write a political pamphlet or a simple call to arms?
Because for Tan Malaka, a political revolution could never, ever succeed without a mental revolution happening first. He looked at the Indonesian working class, the proletariat, and he saw the true engine of the nation. He believed they were the only ones who could achieve real, lasting independence. But he felt they were trapped by that mystical logic, unable to see their own power or understand the scientific laws that were really shaping their lives. Madilog was for them. This book wasn't for academics and ivory towers. He believed that if he could arm the workers with this powerful new way of thinking, a thinking grounded in reality, driven by an understanding of conflict and sharpened by logic, they would finally wake up to their own strength. They'd become an unstoppable force for change. This philosophy was the key to unlocking all that potential.
So as he was hiding in that little hut, Tan Malaka wasn't just writing a book. He was forging a weapon. He was convinced that before you can free a nation, you first have to free its mind. And that really leaves us with a powerful thought, doesn't it? How much of history is driven not by armies or politicians, but by the quiet, explosive power of a single revolutionary idea?